Usually, a lot of people are put off from emulation because of either the real or perceived physical barriers to entry, such as hardware and the cost thereof, or because of the general breadth of knowledge needed prior to undertaking emulation, such as which emulators to use and how to configure them, among other things. However, if you own an Android phone, things just got way easier for you. Let's talk about it. As I stated previously, a lot of people who might find emulation interesting might be put off by it for a number of reasons. For Android users, things are a lot simpler though, thanks to the existence of both Limroid, the RetroArch frontend, and low-cost Bluetooth controllers from places like eBay and Temu, among other marketplaces. These two things make emulation on Android almost a no-brainer. Let's start with Limroid. Limroid is a front-end for RetroArch that aims to make RetroArch user-friendly. If you've never heard of RetroArch before, it's basically a program that lets you download, use, and configure different emulators known as cores. While that's really neat, I've heard from many users that RetroArch is not the most user-friendly piece of software. People complain mostly about its various menus for things and just an overwhelming amount of settings to dig through. While this may be good for power users who have experience in using clunky software, this can be a headache for new users. Enter Limroid. Limroid is quite simple to use. Just point it to where your games and ROMs are located on your phone and voila! Limroid detects your games and it's configured out of the box so that you can just start playing. One downside for power users though is that Limroid doesn't really have many settings, sometimes not having any real settings at all. For new users, this can be good because they don't have to fiddle around with anything. It just works. But for power users, this means that they probably won't be able to run their games the way that they want to, which is probably fine given that this emulator is more meant for the new user who wants to get into emulation and doesn't really want to mess around with all that stuff. Of course, you still have to know where to get your ROMs, but that's not a topic I can discuss. The second thing I want to point out in this video are the inexpensive devices one can purchase if they do not wish to use the on-screen controls. For about 15 bucks, you can get an older but decent enough controller off of eBay, and for around $20 US, you can snag a similar controller from Temu, like this one here. Now please keep in mind that this video is more intended for those that already have an Android phone, because if that's you, you're pretty much ready to get started with emulation, either for free or at a relatively low cost, should you decide to purchase a controller. So what do you think? Does this make emulation more easily accessible? Let me know in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.